Hi there. My name is Jake Shulak. I'm a student here at Columbia College, and what I do is try and help people understand politics without being overly political about it. So we've all heard about this new impeachment trial that's currently happening. We've all heard a lot about why the president is being impeached, but do we really know what that means? Is it going to be like a real trial with witnesses, discovery, evidence presented, all that? Who's in charge of it? So let's talk about all of those things, pretty much anything except for the politics of it. So as far as time frame, it's probably a good place to start. There's a recent Politico article that says that the trial officially started January 16th, and that started with the swearing in of the Supreme Court Justice and all 100 senators. So the way that happens is the leader of the Senate, or the Senate pro tempore, swears in the Chief Justice, and then the Chief Justice in turn swears in all 100 senators. They take a very special oath talking about impartiality and being neutral as a juror. So the other thing that the Politico article talks about is that the opening arguments, which will start on Tuesday, are going to be 24 hours divided evenly between the two sides. So you have the Democrats, who are represented by the House impeachment managers. There's about 6 people on their team, and then the president's team. And he has his 6 lawyers or counsel, and so it's pretty evenly matched between the two teams. After opening arguments, then we'd likely move on to a witness vote. And that vote is going to be on how many witnesses should we have, how long should they be able to testify, and other rules like that. No one's exactly sure if we're going to have new witnesses at this trial, but it is worth noting that it was mentioned in a Vox article that every other impeachment trial that we've had in history, there have been witnesses for. The Democrats want 4 witnesses in particular: the acting White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, his assistant, Robert Blair, the former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, and the Assistant Director of National Security for the Office of Management and Budget, Michael Duffy. The book Impeachment Handbook also talks about the rules for having witnesses. So they would have to vote on a package for those witnesses that would say how many people you could have, and if they'd be able to be cross-examined, and all of that. And now, although this is what the Democrats want, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. So let's talk about what else might happen. According to MSNBC, Mitch McConnell wants to have the same rules as they had in the Clinton impeachment, which means that you do the opening arguments first, and then you have witnesses that you vote on later. Some of the Democrats find that to be a little bit unfair, because also part of that rule package was that you couldn't have somebody testify in the Senate who didn't vote or didn't testify in the House. Well, in this case, all of the witnesses were blocked from testifying in the House. So the Democrats find it a little unfair to not have a witness solely because they were blocked originally. So another thing that impeachment handbook talks about is the ability to change rules by just a simple majority vote. The Republicans having 53 senators means that they would probably win every vote as long as everybody votes along party lines. But there is an article by The Hill that talks about the fact that there are 6 senators who might be willing to change and vote for witnesses. 3 of those in particular are Mitt Romney from Utah, Susan Collins from Maine, and Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. Now that we know about all the rules and everything that we've learned from history, what should we expect this time? Especially from Chief Justice John Roberts, who's going to be in charge of the trial. Unfortunately, the answer for that is probably very little. When there was another article by The Hill that talked about the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, William Rehnquist, and when he was asked about what he did during the trial, he said, "I did nothing in particular, and I did it very well." Sounds a lot like Congress in general. So I would think that, being that this is precedent, John Roberts will probably be very similar to that in how he acts. There are a couple ways that this court case could be a little bit different. First, it was a very fast impeachment inquiry in the House. Being that that's the case, there might be a need for more evidence, more witnesses to appear during this part of it. The other thing is that President Trump is a first-term president. He's the only person to ever be impeached during the first term. So that might cause the current senators who are in his party to be a little bit more tied to him. And the other thing is, when you're a second-term president, your party already knows that you won't be president next time no matter what, making it a little bit easier to say, okay, what the current president did is wrong. So these have all been explanations based on history and all that stuff, but does this really help us understand what's going to happen in this current trial? Let's tie this all together. I don't think anybody can know exactly what's going to happen in the next few weeks, but this should give us some good ideas of things to expect and some things to hope for. If we look at everything we've mentioned so far, confusing and vague as it may be, I think the best that we can all hope for is just fairness. We all know that no one is above the law. And this should also mean that everyone is afforded the benefits provided by the law. This is arguably one of the most important types of court case you could ever have. And if the president has done something wrong, he should be held to account. But regardless, he should be entitled to every ability to prove his innocence through calling witnesses and providing evidence, anything that could prove his innocence. But at the end of the day, we are where we are, and all that we can hope for right now is fairness on both sides. History is watching.